Hi, everybody. This is SSA Video Softball Magazine, our inaugural broadcast from the 16-inch Softball Hall of Fame. Sitting next to me, I want to welcome him, is the president of the 16-inch Hall of Fame, Mr. Ron Kubicki. And Ron, this has been years in the making. Tell us about the great Hall of Fame, where we've come to today.
Well, the Hall of Fame's mission is to promote and keep the game of softball alive. Chicago 16-inch softball is kind of the lifeblood of Chicago sports. The history of the game actually started here. A lot of people don't know this, but the softball history started here in 1876 at Farragut Boat Club. Harvard and Yale were waiting for some football scores to come in on the ticker. It was raining outside. They were getting bored, so one of the guys took a boxing glove, tied it up, and started tossing it around. And another guy says, well, look at this. He took a broomstick, and he started swinging it, and that's how softball started. From there, it's been played since that time in Chicago, basically all over the country, but 16-inch basically here. But it is also in different states, Iowa, Arizona, Pennsylvania. But 16-inch softball is really a threat of Chicago.
Take us into a little bit of the modern history of the game, say in the last 25 years, since 1963, when the ASA started the national tournaments, etc.
Well, back in 1964, the first ASA National Championship was held, and the Bobcats of Chicago won the first national championship. And until 1985, there was no team anywhere in the country that won an ASA National Championship if they weren't from Chicago. Unfortunately, in 1985, unfortunately for my team, we lost to an Iowa team. It was the first time an Iowa team has ever won. So in the 50 years or 52 years since, there's been 2 Iowa teams, the rest have been all Chicago teams. Out of the 50 years, there's been 22 different national championship teams.
And what's beautiful about that is every uniform from those winning teams going back to the early 60s is displayed right here at the Hall of Fame. Speaking of the Hall of Fame, how did it come together? It took a lot of years of planning, and we're finally here. But tell us about how that all came to be.
Well, actually, the Hall of Fame started about 22 years ago. And it was a dream of Al Mag to keep our game alive and to honor those who have played the game for so many years. For example, Nate Sweetwater Clifton, the first African-American. Everybody talks about Jackie Robinson and first African-American in baseball. Right. Sweetwater Clifton was the first African-American player to play in the NBA. But before he did that, he played with the Bombers here in Chicago, 16-inch softball. And he played with the Harlem Globetrotters. So softball has a deep root in the Chicago area. Back in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, they used to outdraw the Cubs and the Sox. It'd be nothing to have 15,000 people at a game at Tillon Stadium and all over the place. I mean, it was just, this was the game. I mean, this is what Chicago was all about.
We have some memorabilia here at the Softball Hall of Fame. Tell us about some of the classic things we have in this beautiful building.
Oh, it's amazing. You know, when we start to put together, start making the collection, which again is over 22 years ago, we have uniforms. People always ask me when they come in, where did you get these from? People save things. Softball players are like hog dogs. They hog everything and they don't want to get rid of it, especially when it comes to uniforms, because again, it's a fraternity. We have uniforms from back in the 30s, some in the 20s. We have pants from the 20s and the 30s, the 40s. Like you mentioned earlier, we have every jersey that was worn in an ASA National Championship game, and for those winners. That was some of the hardest stuff for us to get, but we got every one of them. We have the jerseys from the top 5 teams. 2 years ago, the ASA came out with the top 5 teams of all time. We have their uniforms. The women's played a big part of softball. We have women's uniforms. Rosencrown was a great women's 16-inch softball team. We have their uniforms. We have bats. We have the balls, the evolution of the ball. How it was a baseball stitch to the stitch that we use today. You can see those balls on display. We have rule books from some of the first rule books ever put out. We have tickets from some of the first games that were put out, badges, trophies, as you can see behind us. There's trophies. It's an enormous amount of items that we've collected over the years to, again, make people remember what the softball is.
And of course, we're watching the SSA Video Softball Magazine. Ron Kubicki and George Bliss, we cannot exclude the sponsors of this video magazine, the SSA. In the last 5 years, we have all of their memorabilia as well. And we've had some great tournaments with the SSA. And by the way, throughout the years coming forward, we are going to have some video games here, some more detailed video on the SSA and all their tournaments. Ron, How do you get nominated for the 16-inch softball Hall of Fame?
Well, it's not a really complicated process. The first thing is there's online. You can go to 16-inch softballhof.com, and you can get all the applications there. And all the criteria is set up for each one of the areas, each one of the awards. To be nominated for an era, you must have played at least 10 years of major softball or 5 years and been a major impact player in the game. You must be out of the game for a minimum of 3 years or the age of 50. If you meet that criteria and you've played, and there's some other things that go along there, played in either one of the major ballparks, Prospect, Washington Park, Kelly Park, if you played in those leagues, that helps qualify. You put together the application, get it all filled out, try to give us as much documentation as you possibly can have, send it to the Hall of Fame, to our address here. Then it's assigned to a committee. Each area has a committee with about 10 members in each one. Committee chairs review all the information, goes over the information, and then they determine if that person is qualified to be on the ballot. Comes back to the board, then the ballot is made up. After the ballot's made, it's sent out to the public. Once it goes to the public, they get their vote in. After everything's been tallied, we come back to the board. Committees come back with their recommendations. We take the fan voting, and we take the board's recommendations, and that's how it's determined who gets in and who doesn't.
Sounds like the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame. Basically, same. You get nominated, you send in the criteria, et cetera. Ron, the big banquet this year, tell us about it, where you can meet us, people that are watching us here on SSA Video Softball Magazine. If they've not been to the hall, they can meet us at the banquet, join us, and get on a committee there. Tell us about the banquet, which takes place in 2015.
This year's banquet is Saturday, March 28th at Drury Lane. We've had it at Drury Lane the last 4 or 5 years now. It's a fantastic facility. They treat us very good there. Food's excellent. The whole environment is good, but this is where we have between 600 to 700 people come in and welcome the new inductees for 2014. You can get tickets online by contacting the office. You can buy them online, use your credit card. Tickets are $115. Seems like a lot, but you get 4 hours. For a softball player, 4 hours of open bar means a lot.
Hey, this is one of the best banquets in all of Chicago. Last but not least, if they want to come out here and visit us or give us a phone call, how do they do that, Ron?
Well, they can call the Hall of Fame if they want to make any special arrangements. Right now in the winter, the Hall of Fame Museum is open on Saturdays from 12 to 4, each and every Saturday, unless it's a holiday. In the spring, we'll open 2 days a week, and in the summer, basically 3 days a week. And during the Forest Park Tournament, we have our induction ceremony. We're open all 5 days, actually all 7 days through the tournament. They can call 708-366-7500, extension 17. Talk to our executive director, Rachel Entler, and she can give you any information on the Hall of Fame. If you have a group, if you want to bring a group out to the Hall of Fame, a school group, or a bunch of guys, or a team wants to come in, call Rachel, make an appointment. We have Hall of Famers always available to come over and show them around. And it's a great thing to go through. Again, the Hall of Fame doesn't just have memorabilia. We have videos. We have interactive display screens. You can look up each one of the inductees. You can look up their history, how they got in the Hall of Fame. So it's pretty interactive here.
Let's take a break now. We're going to go to the next segment right here at the Softball Hall of Fame. We're going to talk about events and projects. Stay tuned, folks. Welcome back to the next segment of SSA Video Softball Magazine. Sitting next to me is, of course, the president of the 16-inch Softball Hall of Fame, Mr. Ron Kubicki. And Ron, this year, lots of events and projects coming up for the Hall of Fame. Tell us about it.
Okay, George, we've got our next big event again is Saturday, March 28th, is the Hall of Fame dinner at Drury Lane. Right after that, our next big event would be the induction day. The difference between the dinner and the induction day is when we actually physically put the plaques into the cases outside in Inductees Park. We invite the inductees, their families, teams to come out, watch the induction. We've had old timers games, North versus South. We've had fire department against police department. So it's a fun day. We had Forest Park provides food and drinks, so it's a great day for that. Last year we had music. Then right after that, on August 17th, Monday, we have our 6th annual Hall of Fame golf outing. This is a great way to help sponsor the Hall of Fame by coming to the golf outing. Great way to have a great time, meet with some old friends. It's always a fun out there because everybody is competing in golf for the fun of it, but the conversations back and forth from the players, I was better than you, or this team was better than that one, that's a lot of fun out there too. So the camaraderie is great, and you get to see a lot of the old timers come back out there and stuff. So
have you selected a golf location this year, Ron?
Right, Ruffle Feathers again this year. We've been there the last 3 years, and everybody seems to like Ruffle Feathers. It seems a little expensive. It's $135 per person to golf, but again, remember, this is a donation to the golf outing, to the Hall of Fame, and it's, again, you're getting something back for your money. It includes food and drink and a good time. That's a big thing.
We had a great get-together with the DePaul students last fall. Tell us about the great work they're doing at DePaul.
DePaul University contacted me about 6 years ago asking to be part of, they offer a class to new freshmen coming into the school. And they want them, they're all kids from outside the Chicago area, so they want to teach them what Chicago's all about. They want to teach them, what makes Chicago one of the greatest cities in the world. And we were very fortunate they chose softball, 6-inch softball, because to them, 6-inch softball is one of the threads of Chicago. I know the class meets at the Board of Trade in downtown. They go to the markets. So they go all over the city. So last year, so we've done this for 6 years. What I've done is I've taken Hall of Famers, inductees out there, Ronnie Zeman, Frank Lantine has been with me each year, Gio. We go out there and teach the class, and then we teach the history of the game first, and how it came apart, what it means to Chicago, what it means socially, economically, the impact it has on the communities. And then from there, we do a 2-hour clinic. This year was kind of neat because we've always done the clinic down there, and it poured down rain, so we scheduled a week later. We did the class there and the clinic here, and the kids came out on the subway. We met them at the subway station here, walked over to the fields. They came through the museum and had a fantastic time. What's amazing to see is these kids have never played the game, go out there, and all of a sudden they're catching the ball. Frank teaches them how to hit, teaches them how to catch the proper way, using the hands the right way. Ronnie Zeman teaches them how to pitch because he's one of the greatest pitchers of all time. I teach them how to yell at the umpires a little bit because that's what I did when I was a manager. But from the time they start the game until the time they get done with the clinic, Frank and I have a tough time getting them off the fields. This year, George, you were out there with us.
Oh, I had a great
time, and you filmed a lot of it, did interviews. But when you talk to the kids afterwards, the recap, just to see the smiles on their face, and what gets me too is the girls. They come out and at first they're kind of timid. I don't want to hurt my fingers stuff. When they get done, they're running in front of the guys, grabbing the balls. It really is a great day, and we'd like to expand it to other universities. Anybody that wants to, any other college, would like to come out, we can do that with them. But DePaul's been fantastic. In return, DePaul has sent us 4 to 5 students each year to our banquet to help us put on the banquet. So we really thank them. It's a great partnership, and they know we're getting ready for next year too.
Okay, so all you other universities watching this inaugural broadcast, Loyola, University of Illinois, et cetera, Benedictine, come on out, get involved in softball. And by the way, speaking of young people, Taft High School this year, I covered the game. They won the high school championship. They beat Peyton, and they're coming along with the game as well, the high schools, Ron.
Yeah, the Chicago Public League has a city championship for 16 in softball, which is fantastic. I know they have football, they have basketball, and those games cost a lot. Softball doesn't cost that much, and we have to fight each year to keep the program going. And I know, George, you had a part in it. John High had a part in it, trying to get together. Mike North, getting this all put together, and it's been about 10 years now, but it's a great thing to get the young kids involved. We're seeing the reaps of this because last year's Forest Park champs was a young team that came out of the blue. No one expected them to win. They probably had 101 shot to come in, and they won the championship, went on TV. Some of these kids play in the Chicago Public League.
Sure did.
And they learned how the game was played the right way, and that's what's going to keep our game going.
Okay, that's Ron Kubicki, President of the Hall of Fame. I'm George Bliss. Let's take a brief break. We'll be back right after this. Hi, everybody. This is George Bliss. Thank you for watching our inaugural broadcast of SSA Softball Video Magazine. This year, big plans for the SSA broadcast channel. We're going to talk about all the great points of softball. We're going to have interviews with softball heroes. We're going to talk about the games. We're also going to have major tournament wrap-ups, roundtable discussions featuring your great players. If you're listening or watching on YouTube, make sure you tell your friends the key word to find us is SSA Broadcasts. Or please send us emails at ssa.broadcasts@gmail.com. Again, that email is ssa.broadcasts@gmail.com. This is George Bliss. Thanks for watching. Play softball. It is the greatest game in America.